Hello, everybody. We are at 12 noon, and I want to welcome everybody to my monthly LinkedIn Live, focusing on how personalization is not just simply a series of buzzwords, a thing you do to manipulate people, but actually is a strategic tool that can change the way a brand interacts with its customers. And since doing the research for the book, and frankly, over the years that I've been in personalization, everything in marketing, customer experience has been a quest to move forward, to be able to use customer information in more constructive ways to change the customer experience. And I've had the delight of meeting a number of new businesses along my journeys who are accelerating our ability to make this possible. And one of the areas that is really important from a marketer's perspective is how their landing page adapts to personalized information. And so today I am delighted to have the co-founders of POCKLA join us from over the pond in Britain, Rupert Boddington and Hugo Bibby, who I've had the pleasure of getting to know for the last couple of months and have seen actually even within that time frame some pretty impressive advances in what POCKLA offers. Gentlemen, Rupert, Hugo, welcome.
Dave, thank you for having us. Real pleasure to be here, and hello to everyone watching.
Yes, honored to be here, Dave. Thanks very much for having us.
Sure. And so we're going to talk a bit about what's going on with conversion rate optimization, or CRO, as the many marketing acronyms label it. But we're also going to see an example of how that can dramatically change. So let's just start. CRO is talked about a lot. Many different companies have been pitching, whether they're agencies or tools, CRO optimization. But the real truth is that most CRO treats visitors as anonymous sessions that are not part of an ongoing customer journey. Someone has clicked through from an email or an SMS, and then they just land on the landing page, the general landing page. Why has marketing been so slow to bring in what could be possible to actually connect identity to drive conversion?
Yeah, Dave, it's a great question. And just firstly, you must tell us if we're being too acronym heavy. We're always told off after these calls. So conversion rate optimization, CRO, for anyone that's not clear. Yeah, the simple answer is it's incredibly difficult and time consuming to manipulate traditional websites. Written in HTML, 99.9% of companies need either an in-house dev team or an agency to make changes at scale to their websites. And neither of those solutions are at all quick. Of course, no disrespect to either of those two parties. So that's kind of one part. The other part is the data enrichment side pre-AI. Pre-AI, let me put that another way. Since AI was launched or came about, data enrichment has become so much more powerful, so much easier to gather credible amounts of information on individual contacts. Before that, very difficult, very time consuming. So we have slow changes to websites alongside slow data enrichment. And what that's caused is just a massive gap between the knowledge in your CRM and what's being portrayed on websites. And it's that gap that we're really trying to fix.
And I was frustrated by this when I was chief marketing officer at Aetna, and we were completely redeveloping our website. I kept saying, why do we even have the concept of a sitemap? Because it should be dynamically adapting to whomever's coming and where they come from and what they're looking for and what we know about them. And we just couldn't get there at the time. And so I found that frustrating because the data is there. So Rupert, what you're saying in terms of a lot of those reasons are the potholes along the way that have made it challenging. So now POCKLA, you've established POCKLA to go after this. And I want to stress what I've seen. It's more than just a landing page. It's the website. It's actually thinking through how to use information. So when somebody clicks from an email or a text, let's first start with the data moving. So gathering the data. We'll get to the dynamic changing of the web page in a moment, but let's start with the data. What do you know about somebody that you can bring to bear when they land?
Yeah, I'm happy to take this one. So I think I'll just start by answering this question with setting the scene a little bit for the higher level problem that we want to solve at POCKLA. So we believe that when a visitor turns up on a site, really what they're trying to do is work out, does this product or service fit my needs? And they need to find out, is it what they're looking for in terms of quality? Can they afford it? Have they sold to other buyers similar to me? These are all psychological steps that need to be hit. And our sort of enemy as a business is that generic pages with generic content that are designed to be everything for everyone on a website don't answer these questions very well. And actually a visitor might come, not find the information they're looking for, not think that it's quite right for them and leave. And actually that's a loss for the visitor and for the business, which is a real shame. And it's our enemy that we fight against. So then to answer your question directly, on the enrichment side, traditionally what would happen is that we'd see dynamic pages being created with injecting the first name maybe, or the company name. And obviously this goes some way to helping conversion rates. But now with the advent of AI and with agents that can proactively go and find out what are the things that I can communicate on this page that will help that visitor decide to buy from me, we can now layer these multi-stepped enrichments. So you take a row in a CRM, and there's another column there which says, and we can demo this later, what's a good use case fit? How could this visitor use my business? And that incredibly rich data can then be used to change the content of the site. And that helps the visitor get to those psychological points. Either, obviously, this business isn't for me, or this business definitely is for me. And actually, this business has done some work to think about how I can already use their product and implement it. So we're really excited about what enrichments can look like now that AI has arrived.
Yeah, and when you think about the pathways by which people come to sites, a lot of folks, I'm sure, who are watching this webinar are saying, well, somebody can go into an LLM and say exactly what they're looking for, and that would lead them towards the right solution. It may not give them, though, the exact page and all the information on the site from one angle, but there's other paths by which people go to sites. They don't necessarily just go into LLMs. They might be stimulated by a display ad, by a text, by an email, something they see, they're intrigued, they are in market, because a lot of people may be in general in market, or they're just starting to learn at an early stage. And so they click. And when they just click, you don't have all that information that somebody may have entered into a prompt to an LLM. And so what you're talking about, Hugo, is inferring that information and coming up with a sense of where is this person coming from and what they might want to see based on bringing together a range of information. Do I have that right?
And Dave, we lost you.
We've lost Dave, but I think we can continue the discussion
I'm back.
Dave,
Okay.
we missed you while you were gone. I was just going to say.
Okay, I don't know what happened, but do I have that right?
You sure do, and just think of all of the money and effort being spent on driving that click. Businesses pour so much time and money into driving that click, and then send all of those clicks to the same page, the same information. We talk a lot about it in the business, and we believe in a couple of years' time we'll look back and think, wow, we used to send all traffic, all people to either the same page or at least sort of segments of traffic to different pages, rather than giving them specific information that they're after, interested to them. So yeah, you have that exactly right. And we see businesses spending so much time and money getting these clicks. We're focused on what happens after that click.
And one of the things you cited was today people might take some of the basic stuff out of their CRM, such as the person's name, maybe the company, but you're going deeper. You're digging in further into the CRM, and you're also even going beyond first-party data. Can you explain how you're bringing together a richer picture so that you can make those inferences of what to show somebody?
Yeah, definitely. And I think what's exciting about AI arriving is that, going back to what I said before, is that the number one job as a marketer or a salesperson is to work out how can this potential customer use our products and service, and how can we position our products and services best as possible for each individual customer. Pre-AI, it just simply was not feasible to do that kind of work for every lead further up the funnel that haven't maybe expressed as much interest as people further down the funnel, where maybe you're really starting to invest in them as a prospect. As a result of AI, anyone that's even had a look at your business, and maybe people who aren't even aware of your business, it's now actually affordable and possible to do enrichments that actually a sales development representative might be doing for the sales, for the really highly qualified sales leads 5 years ago. We now can do this with AI for really upper funnel leads, which is really exciting. So mechanically, how does that work? So for instance, we're working with a recruitment company who set us the challenge of, here are lots of tech decision makers who might be hiring for tech roles. This was a tech recruitment company. We're able to do an enrichment, which is find out whether this company is hiring for tech roles. And that might sound simple, but actually it's a 5 or 6 step agentic process to find the company website, find the careers page and the jobs board, read the information on that careers page and the jobs board, filter the jobs for tech roles, and report that back into the CRM. Now we're then using those open job roles, which this company is hiring for, to reach out with a customized page saying, our client, the recruitment company, can help hire for those recruitment roles. So as a result of the increased power of these enrichments, the things that you can do, the possibilities, the ways in which you can make contact and you can prove that you've got value to add, and the way you can manipulate those pages is completely changing. And I think it's going to take people a little bit of time to realize that actually personalization is not swapping an industry and swapping in company name anymore. It's actually doing work on the behalf of the lead to prove that you can serve them and you've got value to add.
And all of that is public data. None of that's necessarily, it's not creepy. I mean, that's all data. It's just bringing it all together to bear in the moment at scale to drive personalization. The other side of this, before we go into the demo, is you talked, Rupert, about the websites and the rigidity of them and the inability to make them truly dynamic in terms of being able to swap in objects and texts and things that are that relate to the individual. So tell me about how that's been changing.
So the ability to manipulate websites has been very kind of rigid for the last 10 years. You can select parts of it and make them variables. You can swap in and out names. And to Hugo's point just now, one of the biggest questions we get during sales processes is, well, hang on, I can already use HubSpot or use one of the big CRM providers to put in a name and a company. That's, can you do more personalization than that? And what we're talking about is moving so far beyond swapping in variables, using dynamic variables on pages, to we can rewrite all of the HTML on this page so that every single word is related to that person, showing them the information that we know that they want to see. Again, from what Hugo is saying, from having done the work and invested into understanding those people. So that's really what we mean by personalization. It's not surface level, hey Dave, hey Hugo, we're from POCKLA. It's really understanding the context of that company and that person, and therefore understanding everything that should be on the page in front of that person from an information perspective, that's going to make them drive them to take the action that we want them to take. And The answer to that isn't always simple at all. We've talked with you offline a little bit about hyper personalization versus light touch personalization. It's something we have to be incredibly careful about. People often ask us, where's right on the spectrum? The answer is different for every single company and every single sector. As a sort of general rule, we see sort of hyper personalization working much better in B2B sectors where customers feel, hey, these people have invested into me, they've taken the time to understand me. Whereas it can have the adverse effect or an adverse effect in B2C, where consumers will see that or might see that and say, hey, I don't want you talking to me specifically. No thanks, I'll go off this list. So it's very much a learning curve, as has always been the case, but this technology just allows us to learn at warp speed.
And well, for businesses, there's more places to get public data that people would feel comfortable, like the example Hugo cited of going to somebody's website. From a personal perspective, yes, you do get into sources that people may not be comfortable with. I totally get that. Then there's one more thing before we get into the demo. There is that link between getting all of the data and rendering the website, which is that inference engine of what is it that's going to be the right thing for this individual. And I sense that's another part of the magic. There's a number of components from an AI perspective. It's bringing together all of that data. It's generating the website. But then there's this middle part, which is coming up with the inference of what will be the right content. Tell me a bit more about how you thought of building that.
I think that's a really good point. And this is where we've had to make the most amount of investment to make this a viable and successful product. Because as I'm sure anyone online now has experimented with AI, you're only going to get a good result 80% of the time. And for a product on the market like ours, 80% isn't good enough. You need 100% of the time. So we've had to invest a lot in the way we use AI to take the original content, use the data to interpret what could be a good replacement, replace that content, and then do several checks afterwards to make sure that we've stuck within guardrails. And what we generally find is that what we don't want to do is rewrite the entire underlying message of a given page. The business wants to position as the business wants to position. What we're trying to do is reframe the content. So it's somewhere in between a complete rewrite and just swapping in a static name variable to reframe. And lots of our kind of internal training has been around reframe this message to be as directed as possible at what this customer, this visitor possibly needs. So in answer to your question, it's not a simple answer to your question. There's a lot of engineering, a lot of hours, a lot of investment that's gone into making sure that AI can perform this job well without completely going off the rails, because that's something we can't accept as a risk.
It's also worth pointing out that I saw the sort of nature of lots of the people watching this webinar, and we are fully aware the lack of trust in AI rewriting pages. We get this time and time again from businesses saying, I don't want AI to rewrite what's on that page. I want to do it myself, maybe with a bit of support from AI. So I'm sure, Hugo, you won't mind my saying, part of what Hugo's had to do is actually dumb down the AI in order to sort of guard the responses that come out. And often what we see from pretty sophisticated big businesses using this technology is them writing the responses themselves, writing the new text, and then making sure that text goes into all the new pages. So we are learning with customers, and a big part of the us getting customers results is them trusting the outcome more and more, and that's going like that. But we are also fully aware that there's a long way to go with people properly trusting AI to rewrite landing pages.
Yeah, I mean, even just breaking down what you said, there's two AI components. One is the inference of what should somebody see, given who they are, and then the next one is given what's on the site and the company's brand strategy, the way they position their products, and all of that. What is the right thing to put in? and to make sure it's consistent and appropriate with what the company actually wants to present. So yeah, a lot of steps involved. And, one of the things I always bring out in these discussions is AI tools are not just one simple AI engine that just does one thing. It actually, the ones that work string together a number of different engines that are working on different objectives and link together in an orchestrated mode to make that outcome happen. It's essentially orchestrating agents that are coming together. And so this is just a really good example of how you guys have created a system that brings that all together. So let's see it in action, Hugo.
Okay, let's do it. So we'll show you a demo for a particular client that we've been in communication with and building some pages for. So this is Tarvis. They build human-like AI avatars for their clients. And they approached us with the problem that they have a decent amount of leads come in, but they're really struggling to convert those leads to book a call. So we'll show you how we re-engineered this particular page to remove the generic content. So let's just dive into this to make sure kind of we're being as explicit as possible. This is the kind of enemy for POCKLA, is that this page has a call to action, which is that someone books in a meeting, but it also has generic content. We power AI for your business. We can do all sorts of products and workflows. And what POCKLA aims to do is to change this wording to be more specific for every specific use case. So if that's kind of the A or the beginning benchmark, we'll now show you how we can go through the process to reimagine that page for every single lead that they might have in their CRM. And we'll show you for a particular set of 25. But what we're also going to do first is we're just going to cover off some of this enrichment discussion that we had before. So we ran a research agent on each of the leads in this list. So this is just a list of leads. I'll call out that these are actually demo leads. Obviously, not sharing anyone's personal information on a live LinkedIn. These are fake individuals, but real companies, as you will see. So let's imagine Sophie Green is the VP of product at Calm, the mindfulness app. And remembering that we're serving the company Tarvis, which is helping build AI avatars. This is a really good example of a deep enrichment. I mentioned that example of being able to send an AI agent off to find if a company is hiring for tech roles. In this case, we've sent an AI agent off to think about how can Calm use personalized AI avatars in their business. And you can see if you read through here, it's actually thinking about use cases. And that's coming back to the point that we discussed, which is this is beyond personalization. This is actually thinking, how can this visitor use our product and taking thinking off their plate? And we think that that's not actually freaky or hyper personalized. We think that that's genuinely useful and helps them get to a better conclusion quickly. So in each case, we have a research agent that's running down these businesses and going to find out what's a good use case for each of these businesses and how could they use Tarvis's product. So let's keep that data in mind as we move through to the next stage. So what I'll now do is I'll create a new page for each of those contacts, the page that I showed before, using that enrichment data. So if I select that list, I pick the demo page. I'm now going to give, and Dave, you just rightly called out, there's lots of pieces of AI that sit behind this technology, but this is what we call our configuration agent, and it's going to help us decide what's on this page already and what data are we going to use to change what elements. So excuse me while I just give it a little bit of a prompt so we can change this page. So let's change the H1 to be Power AI for the contact company, inserting the name there. Power AI for contact company with Tarvis. For the subheader, let's reframe it subtly to aim at a specific use case using the metadata use case fit data point. And for the text next to the form, let's again reframe it, starting it, our enterprise team can help you with XYZ, and insert a use case there from the metadata point use case fit. Keep all content the same length as the original. I will say that voice tool is not part of our platform. If anyone's interested, it's Whisper AI. You can use it to use your voice to enter text into any application you want. That's just a little disclaimer. But it does help me put in prompts like that without having to type it in, and no one wants to watch me type. So what we've got now is a configuration agent that's analyzed that page, and I'll just check these data points. I think we're happy with that. Okay, continue. And what it's done is it's worked out what is on that page, what is on the contact page that I showed you earlier, what data do we have, and how can we change the elements on that page to be more suited for a particular visitor. You'll see it's highlighted all the pieces or elements of that page that we want to change. It's also written prompts for a separate part of the system, which is going to use AI to rewrite these elements. I'm just checking as I'm talking here that this all looks good, to rewrite these elements to be more suited to every single individual. So if I then run an example, it'll take a few seconds to load. What we should see is that live, this content gets rewritten, and it may not be perfect, but you can iterate back and forth on the prompts. But you can see it's working pretty well here. It's called out, and remember the enemy. Remember the enemy here is the generic wording, and then the kind of thing that we're aiming for here is that it's actually called out. Build and scale customized lifelike AI video agents for insurance consultations and workflows. And that's because Ethos is an insurance company. I'm not going to run all 35, but I have already run a similar workflow a minute ago just to make sure that you guys don't have to sit there for 15 minutes or 3 minutes.
We've lost him. I've seen Hugo do this demo maybe over 100 times, and he'll be back on in just a second. Sorry about that, otherwise I can actually log on and get it up.
Here it is. Okay.
Sorry about that. I got kicked out like Dave earlier. Okay.
Just to the most exciting part, Hugo.
Yeah, exactly. So now we're looking at a new link for this visitor from Noom. And this page has been rewritten to build, scale, and customize AI health coaching avatars for personalized care. And this content, again, has been rewritten using that deep research about how Noom can actually use AI avatars in their business. We're really excited about
actually, Hugo, I noticed the text block on the left, not just at the headers, but the text block on the left also has been rewritten. Health coaching avatars that provide empathetic support at scale. All of that's in there as well.
Yeah, exactly. And as Rupert mentioned, we really can touch every word that's on this page, and we're working towards changing the media as well, so the images. But what we're aiming for here is that how much more likely is it, and it is much more likely that Noom is going, or the representative from Noom is going to book a meeting with Tarvis and engage with their product, because Tarvis have invested in understanding how can we help Noom. And that's what our platform is aiming to do, is to not be freaky personalization, but actually to do that work on the visitor's behalf to really think about use case. So that's probably a good point to finish the demo and not do too much more talking. But I hope that that's kind of put some images and a story to all of the theory that we've been discussing in the first half of the call.
Hugo and Dave, actually, are we allowed to answer or speak about one of the comments that I'm just reading here, which fits quite well?
Yeah, sure.
I can see a comment from Gopal asking, why not have a chatbot with an AI agent which can ask the visitor where they're looking for and then present the set of existing links? Strangely, I just came off a call before this webinar from a video agent provider pitching that exact idea to us, to install those video agents onto these landing pages so that a visitor lands and has a video agent speaking to them saying, hey, Dave, hey, Hugo, this is what we have to offer. This is what we know about you. What can we do for you? And then you responding back to that avatar, that person. So Gopal, we're on it. We really back that idea. Just bear with us a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think the roadmap for this type of personalization is so exciting. We're talking about just restructuring websites, but that comment's a great one. What's coming down the road is far more, fundamental changes and regeneration of the user experience. Could be a chatbot, could be a new UI that has a revenue calculator that perfectly answers a pain point that a visitor might have. So there's so much excitement. We're looking to get the framework and infrastructure in place that we can get the enrichment data. We can have those kind of pain point signals locked and loaded to then facilitate all these different exciting user experiences, use cases that are definitely coming down the road.
So it just seems very clear, the value, you can absolutely see it. But as you're working with clients, what are some of the issues that come up that you've got to address? And those, because POCKLA is providing the tool, but there's some kinds of change management issues that have to be arising. So can you share with us some of those things that come up and how you address them?
I'm happy to. I mean, Dave, we could probably answer this for about 3 hours, sadly, as you can probably imagine. If you think where creating personalized links kind of sits in the value chain for engaging and personalizing pages for customers, you have kind of data collection, which in theory should be simple, but I'm sad to say probably over 50 or 60% of our sales processes or sales calls end very positively. It would say, okay, would you mind getting us some example links or example leads, I should say, for us to create personalized pages for? Yes, of course, I'll go and do that. A week and a half later, they're like, I'm just struggling to get this data together. So sort of point number one is we've got to make it easier for customers to get clean, useful data to put into our system, because that's the data that we're then using for enrichment to start doing what we do well. And then the other half, let's say after the links that we create, is the distribution engine, which most customers use different softwares. Some are focused on email, some are focused on LinkedIn, some are focused on WhatsApp. It's a complex, messy world. The let's call it customer engagement distribution engine that we're tapping into. We are building for it and building APIs and bringing functionality for customers to easily be able to distribute our links, but it takes time. And so we have blockers before with the data collection, and then we have blockers with the distribution of our links as well. When customers say, hang on, you've just given me 10,000 links, now I need to really quickly get this out to my customers. So we are working really hard to solve for kind of those two parts of the value chain. Hugo might have completely different answers for the blockers that you see. What do you think?
Well, I was just going to say, I think businesses have the challenge of, maybe they moved to HubSpot 2 years ago, and actually the team's still really learning to get to grips with what that platform offers. And that's just one example. We speak to lots of businesses that are really disappointed, particularly on the B2B side, they're really disappointed with their website as a baseline. They want to change their website. They want their website to be better. So it's in some ways, for some businesses, hard to engage with, this is the cutting edge. They want to get to the cutting edge, but those foundations have to be there. So we're often taking clients on a journey of, the baseline is probably never going to be where you want it to be, but this is how you can really make a difference in the here and now. This is how you can really run a really great campaign for the next 6 months, and not try and be perfectionists about it. Let's just make an impact and increase the conversions of your visitors for a small segment of what you do.
And we haven't even touched on data security, compliance, sign off from different departments. That's all stuff that's almost different stage for us. So plenty of blockers, Dave, is I think the answer to that question.
Of course, and there are with all of these tools, and it's not uncommon that the state of a client's data is often the starting point. It's messy. Yeah. And, there are AI tools in and of themselves that are out there to help clients clean up data, but it depends on how bad, how unmanaged, how unhygienic, how dirty that data really is from a starting standpoint. The other thing that you also mentioned was people a bit worried about manipulating their websites and having a brand voice. One of the things I'm wondering too is, have you seen clients codify brand voice? so that as you're generating content and text, is that something you can take in as intelligence to guide how you render the sites?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I think many people are spooked by if you put in a blog into ChatGPT and say, copy my voice, and just how far off it is when that result comes back. There's a lot of trust issues around can AI do that? And I think eventually it will be able to. But right now we have to put in a lot of guardrails. And it actually goes back to what Rupert said earlier, which is that we don't try and be too ambitious with the way that we configure this. The eye-popping moment is in going and fetching some great insight about how we can help a visitor for a client. And then being very strategic about the way that we train AI to re-inject that information into the tone of the site as is. And, maybe talking about forward-thinking ideas as we did a few minutes ago, maybe it will come down the road that tone problem gets solved by the models. And we can just do full page generation, full page rewrite in perfect brand voice. But at the moment, for where the tech is currently at, our approach is to be clever in the way we enrich, but actually be dumb in the way that we don't try to do too much to the wording of the page. We just get that information in there and say the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, because I think what you're starting to lay out when you combine the CRM. So actually, here's a question we haven't talked about. We've talked a lot about the website, but do you adjust the outbound coming from the CRM itself to be more personalized along the way? Actually, I don't think we've touched on that yet.
Where is good, or the value of the link to a decent extent, or a very strong extent, is in the quality of the email, right? If people aren't clicking through or opening those emails, number one, then clicking on the link, number two, then there's no point having really, really high quality landing pages. So the answer is yes. We're building in the functionality for us to be able to look after not just emails, but also LinkedIn, to be able to really, really personalize those emails. It's also a real nice thing that we've seen over the last few months. The lift that you're asking of someone to click through or to click on an email to book a demo or book a call is very, very high. It's pretty much the hardest thing you can get a customer to do in the B2B space. Whereas they ask to, hey, check out this page that we've made for you. Just click here to have a look at it. Not that many people aren't clicking on that. It's just the curiosity, right? So we see much, much higher click-through rates just from changing the call to action to a lighter ask. And then obviously you've got them on the site, you've got them where you want them, you're hitting them with personalized information. So yes, looking after the distribution engine, Dave, that email being the example that you asked, is an important part of us being able to deliver the core value of the product, which are the landing pages.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I think we're moving into a new paradigm with what's possible with those sorts of client communications. And I mentioned before, if you've got the ability to build a proposal page for everyone in your funnel, suddenly that outbound doesn't need to be check out our products and services, thanks for signing up, or read our newsletter about all the stuff that's generally going on in our industry. Please keep us in mind if you ever need this service. We can actually say goodbye to that kind of email, and we can replace it with, hello, we've invested X amount of time really thinking about how we can help you. And here's the evidence of that. And to your point, Dave, that does need to be in the email as well as on the page. But because you can show that investment now, the entire messaging paradigm has changed. You don't need to be general anymore. You've got an extra superpower, and we're really seeing clients take advantage of that.
Yeah, one of the examples that I actually opened the book with happened a few years ago to me when we were looking, solar panels were a hot thing in my town because they were offering a discount on property taxes. And I got a pitch saying, it was actually a physical piece of mail that said, in this envelope is a personalized URL explaining how you could save 20% on your total energy bills at this address, which was our address. Opened it up, typed in the URL, got an image of the roof of my house from Google Earth with solar panels superimposed on the roof, and then a calculation based on the longitude and latitude of my house, the east-west exposure of my roof, and the number of panels, how much energy they would generate. And then they went to Zillow, got the square footage of my home, and used that to estimate how much total energy we would use. And so they had the numerator from the Google Earth calculation, the denominator from the Zillow calculation, and it came to 21.3%. And that was, it's everything you're talking about done in a different way. They did not build, I got in touch with the company that they didn't build something that could scale like what you guys did. And it was off a very narrow set of parameters, but it was incredibly powerful. They took off within my town. They all kinds of referrals. They ended up getting bought by a private equity company. But it just shows
in the future, Dave.
Did you buy the panel? Did you buy the panels?
Yes, we did, and we didn't
Did
even
you?
look at a competitor
Really?
because they made the whole process so easy. Because once I saw that, it said, click here to talk to a sales rep. And I click and I'm immediately put into a video conference with a guy who greets me, sees I'm Mr. Edelman, actually had all my data there, and started talking right through the economics, which all made sense. And then he had the email addresses of two of my neighbors to serve as references.
Amazing.
Wow.
We've got a comment in the chat, Dave, from Matt Edwards about what about optimizing inventory display, such as a product listing or an e-commerce store. And I think that's worth calling out, because I think in the consumer game, the tech works exactly the same. The difference is the data. And very often you have much less data on consumers, as is probably a good thing. But if they are existing customers, and they are in your CRM and they've bought several things off you and you've managed to bucket them into segments, everything that we showed in that demo is possible. You can use their previous purchase history to characterize them, who they might be, what they're more likely to buy next. And every single product page can be changed to be specific for a person. So it's a very exciting opportunity in that space too. And we've also had clients who are running 160 ads create 160 new pages of the product page that those ads point to match the messaging from the ad, because Meta obviously works now in a way where the ad really is targeting people based on creative. So we match the creative to specific wording on the purchase page and massively increase conversions in that way through continuity. So it really does have exciting opportunities on both sides of the fence, B2B and B2C.
Yeah, and there's not just simply conversion out of this. It becomes a brand presentation issue as well. From what I've seen and when I've talked to companies who've dabbled in this, and admittedly, few have gone anywhere near what you guys have been able to build. But the change in how consumers in the future open up their emails, they open up more emails. They see that it's personalized. They're more attracted to the brand. And that becomes a virtuous cycle as you serve somebody well because of how they see you using information about them to deliver something that's dramatically more relevant. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've got an interesting sort of mental paradigm to think about. I think when you walk into a store, when you're maybe rarely in one of those stores that have sort of shopping assistants in there who want to help you buy your thing, I think we could be into a world when AI really kind of manifests itself and proliferates, where it really does feel like every business has its own shopping assistant for you, B2B, B2C. Your emails will be the same. Your emails will be personalized to you. They'll be based on previous communications that you've had with the business before. The landing pages that you look at will be specifically designed for you, and it will all be tailored towards what's going to be the best thing that this business provides to you. I don't necessarily see that world as creepy. I actually see it as quite efficient. And maybe that's what it will be like, is that every customer will have its own kind of representative that helps it decide whether to buy or not to buy from a business.
But Dave, you're really so true to call out brand, and this not just being a conversion play. I was just thinking through when you said that Hugo was speaking. We have quite a few financial services clients. I'm going to be really careful about not generalizing here, but specifically within B2B, I can think of lots of calls within financial services, wealth management, especially with them saying, I don't really care about the conversion rates. You can tell me about them if you want, but this is about our customers feeling like we've properly invested into them, we properly understand them, and that we're market leading, across the board, not just with our investment services. In many ways that holds us to a slightly lower standard than like, did we increase your conversion or not? Rather, did we make your customer feel like they are very, very special to you? And that's something that we hadn't thought of, to be honest, when we launched this business, but it's something we're seeing more and more of. So yeah, very, very quite right to call out brand as well.
Yeah, and I think where it's going to go is the range of information that you tap into is going to expand as companies interact more and more with AI characteristics that can collect and create more information. For example, digitizing the dialogue in all the calls you've had with customer service, for example. All of those, whether you were talking to a person or a chatbot, that's all going to be digitized. That all becomes data. That all becomes fodder for what you can do. So I think that the notion of that data pool expanding creates more opportunity for you to drive the right inferences, that you're not going to just simply pitch somebody who just had a bad experience. You're going to try to see if there are ways to make it up, and you'll think about a whole different discourse. And I think some of that strategy and using the AI to help guide that strategy is going to become more important as that data pool expands.
Yeah, 100%. It's so true. And just as that new comments come on, how do you know the line between knowing too much about a customer and personalizing too much and not knowing enough? That is exactly what you're talking about, Dave. We have to be very, very careful in B2C about not overdoing it and scaring people off. Whereas we haven't yet found the line with B2B, with customers being like, whoa, you know too much about me. It just seems to be a space where the more context, the more understanding you have on business, and exactly as you say, pulling data fields and flows from your sales calls, the better the results when it comes to getting landing pages right.
Yeah, and on B2B, the data is very complex at times, because you need to know somebody's role. If you sell multiple products into them, which ones are they using? How are they using those products? All the range of complexity, and physical salespeople, humans, find it hard when I've got 100 clients, each of whom could have any mix of 100 different products or something like that. How do I know the right way to interact with them? And this starts bringing all of that to the fore, and automates it all the way through. So it's powerful. So I'm going to wrap up here, guys. What gets me excited about this is bringing to life this notion that brands can distinguish themselves by using customer information in value creating ways, both for themselves, but even more importantly for their customers, so that their customers can learn better, have a better experience, understand the value that the company can provide, and that a lot of the obstacles that have made it hard to do can now get overcome, not just by one simple AI thing, but by stringing together thoughtfully a whole bunch of agents in an orchestrated way. So I really applaud what you guys are doing. I wanted to share it with everybody. I think this is, it just opens your mind to how you can start tracking this. Also, I think some of the differences between B2B and B2C are interesting as well, about toning it back for B2C, being able to go all the way in B2B. I think that was a very interesting set of insights. So Rupert and Hugo, I assume if people want to learn more, they can just go to your website. You may not know who they are to personalize yet, but once they sign up on a form, you'll start knowing a hell of a lot about them.
For sure. We can promise anyone that does sign up will be receiving a personalized page and personalized response.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Really a pleasure to have you.
Thanks,
Dave,
Dave.
it's been great. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for everyone for tuning in. Really enjoyed
Yes,
it.
and as we wrap this up, once again, as always on these LinkedIn Lives, please comment afterwards. We'd love to hear any feedback that you have. Please share this. This is being recorded. Other people can see this later if they weren't able to watch it now on LinkedIn Live. And we'll have another one probably in about 2 or 3 weeks that I have on it. Another theme lined up in terms of how technology is driving faster personalization, faster operations. The opportunities just keep growing. I think part of the challenge is setting your priorities. Anyway, thank you all. Thank you, Rupert and Hugo, and have a great day.
Thanks, Dave.